Hi, this is Daniel from Theology is for Everyone, and I'm here with insights in Matthew. The thing to remember about interpreting the Gospel of Matthew is that Matthew was writing to the Jewish people, telling them about the Messiah, Jesus, that he truly was their king, that he had truly come to share the kingdom with them and establish his kingdom, but then they rejected him. And so the kingdom was taken away from them and it was postponed. And so with that backdrop and that idea, when we read the Gospel of Matthew, we have to make sure that we are seeing what Matthew was trying to do for the Jewish people who were in his audience. And so part of the Jewish law was that nothing was officially legal or could be trusted, if you want to put it that way, without, and you've heard this phrase before, 2 or 3 witnesses. And so for the first couple of chapters, Matthew laid out one witness after another. And if you're reading through the Gospel of Matthew, you'll see this all the way in chapters 1, 2, 3, and halfway through chapter 4. In chapter 1, Matthew laid out 2 witnesses, or presented 2 witnesses for Jesus' identity as the Messiah. In the first 17 verses, he referred to Jesus as the son of David. Now, it's very important that the Messiah was not just a son of Abraham or a Jewish man, but that he was from the royal line of David. In 2 Samuel chapter 7, God promised that David's family and David's throne and David's dynasty would last forever. And of course it didn't, because when Israel was taken into captivity in the 6th century BC, the throne, it looked like, ended. And even today, there's nobody on the throne as king in Israel. Well, just because somebody's not sitting on the throne currently doesn't mean that there's not somebody who could or should be sitting on the throne. And Luke chapter 1, when Gabriel told Mary, "You will have a son, you will name him Jesus," Gabriel made this promise that he would sit on the throne of his father David and rule over the house of Jacob. Jesus is the Messiah, the promised king, who is going to rule over Israel one day. Well, because of that, when Matthew wrote his gospel, he called to the stand, if I can put it that way, Jesus' ancestry. And for the first 17 verses, he pointed back to David repeatedly in 2 ways. First of all, he used David's name a couple of different times. Secondly, he used the number 14, which doesn't mean an awful lot to us, but in the Hebrew language, the name David, just like in English, is made up of 3 consonants, D, V, D. All of the consonants in Hebrew were also used as numbers in their numbering system. Well, when you add up D, which is 4, and D, which is 6, with another D, 4, you get 14. And sure, there are different ways to come to 14, but the number 14 was so linked with David's name that saying one was almost like saying the other in a sense. And so through the first 17 verses of Matthew 1, Matthew used the number 14 about as many times as he used the name David, so doubling up on his emphasis that Jesus was the son of David. The second witness Matthew called to the stand in chapter 1 is in verses 18 through 25, and that would be Jesus' supernatural conception. Sometimes we call it the virgin birth. It's his supernatural or his virgin conception. And whereas Luke showed the angel going to Mary and saying, "This is what's going to happen," Matthew, because he was following Jesus' legal family tree through Joseph, showed the angel going to Joseph. Several months later, at least 3 months, Mary was already starting to show. Joseph wasn't sure what to do about this whole thing. And of course, I'm sure Mary had said, "But the angel told me this would happen." And Joseph didn't believe her until the angel told him it would happen too. And so in Matthew chapter 1, as we are trying to figure out what is it that Matthew wanted to say, we see him calling his first 2 witnesses to the stand to testify to Jesus' identity as the Messiah, the King of the Jews, his ancestry and his supernatural conception. In chapter 2, we'll see a few more.